Hello and welcome to the first of our series of Brexit bulletins where we explore all the things and all the changes that are going on in this exciting place, the European Parliament, here in Strasbourg. There's a lot of changes coming our way and it's a chance to have a look at some of the issues from the inside with the people who are involved on a day-to-day basis. I'd like to introduce our panel today. This is Janice Atkinson, the independent MEP for South East England, and who is also the Vice President of the ENF Group. Marcel de Graaff, our Dutch MEP and Delegation Leader for the Party for Freedom, the PVV, and Co-President of the ENF Group. Welcome. And Gerolf Annemans, the Flemish MEP and Delegation Leader for Flemish Interest, Vlaam Belang. Hope I've got that right. Yeah. And Vice President of the ENF Group. So welcome. Thank you very much for coming today. If I can ask you first of all, Janice, Article 50 has just been launched this week. You must be very happy that this has happened. What's your views?
We are happy. I've worked all my political life that this should happen. I was elected to deliver this. So in the 3 years I've been here, we've triggered Article 50. I'm expressly grateful to the British people, but you know, it's not over yet. There's up to 2 years of negotiations to happen. But thank you, Theresa May. Thank you for delivering it. And we've just got to make it happen and get the right deal for Britain, actually, and our European partners as well.
Of course. And how do you think it's going so far?
Well, actually, since we triggered Article 50 and the people voted to come out, the British people voted to come out of the EU, we've seen investor confidence in Britain soar. We've got IBM, Toyota, I mean, the house building, all the house builders have reported phenomenal growth. Pharmaceutical companies, Siemens, there's lots of European companies that are reinvesting in Britain and lots of American companies like Amazon, Google and IBM that have recommitted and spending extra money. We've also got low inflation. We've got very high GDP growth, estimated around about 2%. We've also got one of the lowest unemployment rates, lower than 5% in Britain. So things are booming actually, and there's big investor confidence in our country.
And you think that's going to make prosperity for other nations in the wider world that Britain's always wanted to deal directly with?
Absolutely. Unshackled from this place, we can create our own free trade agreements. We got the backing of President Trump, our biggest trading partner. We can have a free trade agreement with them. That has been key for triggering Article 50, and Britain feeling confident going forward in the big wide world, which we always have been, traders and investors, and unshackled by this place, it will even be better.
So exciting times ahead. Perhaps I could turn to you, Marcel de Graaff. What's your view on what's happening now, and how will it affect your country? Is it going to be new prosperity for yourselves?
Well, first let me congratulate the UK with this fantastic event, historical event of leaving the European Union, because the UK will flourish greatly, and I see now countries lining up, willing to do trade agreements with the UK, countries like the US, Australia, Switzerland. I heard a delegation of the UK is now speaking in India, and that is the start of a really great future for the UK. So the question then is, will the Netherlands also see such a great future? Because that was your question. Well, we're still in the EU, so basically, while that is the case, the answer is no. No, I'm sorry. We're in the EU, so the EU is not capable of making these great trade agreements. We have seen TTIP, which is now put down by President Donald Trump. Yes. I don't see any trade deal with China coming. So what we see is an EU incapable of creating jobs, of creating wealth, and we're part of that, unfortunately.
Yes, and that leads on to the next question. Do you foresee in the future that there will be an exit? Are you going to be plugging for that, and based on the UK leading the way, perhaps?
Well, I would very much like that. Our party is greatly in favor of leaving the European Union. Yeah. We want a referendum in the Netherlands, the same as we saw in the UK. And if our party would be part of the government, and we just had elections, we were the second largest party in the Netherlands. If we would be part of the government in the Netherlands, we would certainly favor a trade deal with the UK. And you know that when you look at the EU treaties, that's not allowed. And we have a negotiator from the European Parliament, Mr. Verhofstadt, who really is shouting out loud now that no such bilateral negotiations are allowed for any member state, because they're scared to death.
Of course.
They know that the EU is going down, and that you are the first brick in the wall that's taken away. And yes, I would love to see the Netherlands being second.
And do you think that there's going to be bilateral trade agreements, for example, between the Netherlands and the UK? Is that how you see it all unfolding?
With this Prime Minister we have now, it will not happen, because he is a Europhile to the core, and he's hunting for a job, I think, in the EU institutions. So with this guy, well, we are doomed. But we hope for a new elections very soon, and then I'm for sure that we will be the biggest party, and we will go into this disagreements with the UK. Well, first things at the first moment that's possible.
Okay, interesting. Well, Gerolf Annemans, your party wants freedom. That's what you're all about. Can I get your take on Brexit and how it's going to work out for you in your country?
Well, as Marcel, unfortunately, Flanders is not only bound to Belgium, which is our form of unfreedom and our struggle for freedom, but it's also bound to this European Union through Belgium. And so Flanders, as much as it would like to have a good relation, a friendship relation with the United Kingdom, we are bound to the sort of revenge that the European Union is seeming to organize now. If we see the resolution of Mr. Verhofstadt, which is a very fanatic Belgian former prime minister, but in Europe here organizes now these relations between the European Union and the United Kingdom. If we see the draft of his resolution, we see that it is about revenge. It's about lots of money that the United Kingdom will have to pay, lots of obligations that the United Kingdom will have to fill in because of so-called engagements that they took in the past. So it will not be a clear cut, it will not be a clear negotiation. The resolution says literally that the United Kingdom cannot even negotiate free trade with third countries. So instead of preparing a new future for the United Kingdom here in this House, they will try to avoid that and to slow that down or turn that into a chaos. And so that's very sad. We are not. The resolution should have two lines. We will seek as much as we can as a European Parliament to support the European Commission and its negotiations with the United Kingdom for a clean exit and a friendly exit. But the whole resolution is filled up with red lines in this European Parliament to block the United Kingdom, to oblige them to take open borders obligations instead of trade, etc., etc. So it's going to be a dirty deal if we see what the European Parliament and the Euro fanatics in this European Parliament will want to make of it.
So we want a fresh Brexit, not a dirty Brexit. But you mentioned this payment, so perhaps I could bring Janice in here, because of course we've got this bill of possibly 60 billion euros that the UK is being told they're going to have to pay. I don't think somehow that you're in support of that.
No, I'm not, and there's no legal basis to actually try and impose this. But let's think about where Britain has been, how much they paid in. Over the 40 years that we've been members, we've actually paid £1 trillion into this place, one of the few net contributors. You could argue that actually we have got a number of assets. They owe us rather than us owing them. We have £9 billion invested in the European Investment Bank. We have £14 billion worth of intellectual property rights, physical properties, etc. So actually we could present them with a bill rather than the other way around. So what the contributions that the UK make is 14% of the overall budget. I would suggest that this place actually reduces its budgets rather than talking about increasing taxes or penalising us for going. We can have a dirty deal if they want, and Theresa May and Boris Johnson have said we will walk away because we can trade under World Trade Organization rules, and in some ways that's a lot better for us because we have much cheaper food and we can do deals around the world. So, and this place, because they export more to us than we export to them, we've got a big trade deficit. They need us more than we need them. So at the moment, I'm afraid it's just saber rattling. It's this place getting very frightened and issuing lots of threats that have actually, what we have to remember is there is no legal basis and they owe us more than we owe them.
Well, I think that seems to be the message coming out of so many areas in the European Parliament. I think you've said, Marcel de Graaff, that you think that the UK will prosper and so will the countries that the UK does deals with. Is that what you foresee in the short term as well as the long term?
Yes, absolutely. We had a renowned financial research company called Capital Economics based in London to calculate whether or not the Netherlands would profit from an exit. And the outcome was that every year each Dutch family would gain 10,000 euros by an exit. So that's really something. And that's because of the bilateral trade agreements, that's because of shaking off the administrative burden which is imposed upon every company via EU directives, that is via control of your own national borders. And therefore you can actually stop the millions of illiterate fortune seekers entering your country and say, okay, well, we do want to have immigration, but let it be people who are bringing something to the country, who have an education in a direction that we need. So therefore, there are so many benefits of leaving the EU and being a sovereign nation again, that yes, for sure, the countries that are sovereign and that can do deals with the UK will prosper as much as the UK will.
Well, this is music, I'm sure, to the ears of Janice. But can I bring you back in, Gerolf Annemans? You mentioned earlier the role of Guy Verhofstadt. Now, you've had a long relationship with him, and you've seen many performances by him in the European Parliament. He's now the Brexit negotiator. How's that going to work?
Well, when I first heard that, I thought it was a joke. And it appears that it was actually a joke of Martin Schulz, who had this leaving this place in his mind, and left us and left the United Kingdom with the most supreme form of revenge, sending Verhofstadt to the United Kingdom. Now, the European Parliament and the role of the European Parliament is quite limited in this Brexit process. Mr. Barnier, who is a very reasonable Frenchman and who will make the deal for the Commission, he is the counterpart. And I would suggest the British and the people that voted for the Brexit to calm down and orient your negotiations not on Verhofstadt, who is actually a puppet of the Euro fanatics in the Parliament. And the European Parliament should not mix with it, because the discussion about this millions of pounds that the United Kingdom or billions of pounds that the United Kingdom should have to pay. This is a technical discussion, should be dealt with the executive, with Mr. Barnier, the Commission. It's the main issue for the Parliament should be that the political outcome should be peaceful relations between the United Kingdom and those who have to stay in this union. And instead of mixing into the technical deals just to make the Brits pay for it, we should, from this Parliament send out the political message of peace and good relations between this wonderful United Kingdom and the European Union that we're left in. But that is exactly the problem for them. It is the political problem is the fact that you went out and that many others are waiting to get out.
Yes, of course,
and,
of course.
And that especially those went out who were not even under the pressure of the euro, because the people and the countries in the eurozone are even much worse off than you were. So the sign that you gave is so deadly for this European Union that in this in principle, political situation of the European Parliament, we should reduce this European Parliament to the political role and the political sign of friendship, whereas they will try to make here a chaos about the whole Brexit thing.
Well, I think that we've seen a lot of that already, and it's it's sad. It has to start that way. Now, there was a resolution drafted by Guy Verhofstadt last week in response to Article 50. Is that a sign of the times to come? And what you've said is kind of pessimistic, but can we draw anything from that?
If you see this resolution, this is all about what I said, revenge. The Parliament actually, in his mind, has a veto right on the deal, on the final deal. So let's, for instance, in a hypothesis, say that Mr. Barnier finds a fair and good deal with the United Kingdom, then Verhofstadt and his majority in the Parliament could object to that. It's utterly madness. The only one who has to decide about the Brexit was the people of the United Kingdom, and they decided. So all the rest is technical matter. It's not political, and they try to make it, to remake it political, to have a veto here in this Parliament, to oblige the United Kingdom to take the open borders question and the Schengen Treaty back in. That's impossible, of course. You went out because of that. So keep your principles straight and don't mind too much about Mr. Verhofstadt and his majority here.
Well, that's very encouraging, and I'm sure Janice will not just take heart from that, but you must really feel it must be a real boost to your confidence to have the kind of support we're hearing today from fellow European members of the ENF, and to see how positive they are for their own countries and for the future of European prosperity, not just for the countries that, like ourselves, that have decided to go. And how do you want it to proceed? What's your vision?
You're absolutely right, and it isn't just my group, the ENF, that's very supportive. Across the Eurosceptic right of the Parliament, we do have an awful lot of support. And I echo what Gerolf said about Verhofstadt. Verhofstadt was a political nasty appointment, somebody to come in and poke everybody with a stick. He doesn't speak for the Council. He doesn't speak for the Commission. I would actually like to see, I think Barnier is a reasonable man, but I have called for him not to have part in negotiations. I think it should be the Council. I think it should be Donald Tusk, the heads of state, and because it's them, it's their countries, it's the heads of states, the nation states that ultimately trade with us. And it's their companies within those states as well. So I think we should have business leaders involved. They talk about, it's going to take years and years and years to have a free trade agreement with us. It won't. It takes Wall Street and the City of London just a few months to discuss mergers to come together.
Fair point.
The main reason it doesn't as well in this place is because they want all the 27 member states to agree. And then you bring in the parliaments as well, and they bring in the unions and consult civil society. We've got communists in there, we've got Sinn Féin supporters and Greens. So therefore you never get a proper agreement. You don't get proper trade agreements. So what I propose is to take Verhofstadt out of this, take the European Parliament out of it, and hand it over to these people. And there's another sticking point to this. We have Cecilia Malmström, we have the sociology lecturer, a former socialist green type that doesn't really understand business, and that's why trade deals take so long, years. That's why TTIP failed, and that's why CETA took 6-7 years to get to the table here, and it's just a cobbled together trade agreement. They don't mean anything. And so therefore we've got to take her out of the equation because she's not actually qualified to do it. Put people that are qualified into it, the people from Wall Street, the city, the other stock exchanges from the European countries, and then we can go forward. And we can go forward with business and the heads of state. We certainly can't go forward with Guy Verhofstadt. The man is just a joke and somebody that actually really hates Britain and what we've done. So you can't deal with somebody like that.
Go ahead, Marcel.
And if there wouldn't be a deal, I think that wouldn't be a big deal, because it would always be possible to do trade via the World Trade Organization conditions. And then Also, because of the dependency of member states in the European Union, of the UK, they would do these deals, they would do the trade.
Yes.
And they would do it under the World Trade Organization conditions. So this Parliament thinks that it can make itself very big by saying, okay, we can veto whatever deal they're going to make between Council, Commission and UK. But in fact, if there's no deal, that could be, then it could be that UK is even best off, because you won't have to take into account things like the Schengen Agreement, the European Court of Justice. You know,
yes.
Verhofstadt proposed that the European Court of Justice would be the supervisor of this deal. I mean, then you're already back in via the back door.
You mentioned all the committees in this Parliament, which are something like 30 or 40, should agree with the agreement. So it's madness, it's chaos if you let them do.
And you know, we're really talking, you three represent historic great trading nations, well versed in the art of negotiation, which is kind of different to the history of the European Parliament. So, you know, I think that there's whichever way it goes, as you quite rightly say, you know, there are good times ahead. Well, there's certainly many issues to discuss here, and it's great that we can explore them. So we look forward to you coming back for our monthly look at what's going on. Thank you very much for listening today. Hope you found it interesting. Join us here again next month for Brexit Bulletin, and we'll be looking at the issues that matter. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.